Mrs. Moncel, and I will be reading a story called Ecosystem Changes. There will be two parts. I will be reading part one now, and stay tuned for part two. You are hiking in Yellowstone National Park. It is the oldest national park in the world. It is also one of the biggest wildlife preserves in the United States. As you walk along the trail, you can observe the balance of nature. It's all around you. Look, over there, that adult bull elk weighs close to 1,000 pounds. Its striking, spreading antlers have 12 points. As you quietly observe, the elk grazes in the grasses beneath the trail. The largest herd of elk in the United States can be found here. At one time, elk could be found in the eastern forests and prairies of the United States, but they were hunted so much that they died out in many areas. Now look above you. Do you see that huge flock of white pelicans? They soar high over the trail until they fly out of sight. They are going on a group fishing expedition to one of the park lakes. There they will swim along the water's surface. Staying in a line, they will chase the fish to shallow water. Once the fish have been trapped there, the pelicans will swoop them up in their pouches and swallow them whole. That is how the balance of nature works. Both the elk and the white pelican survive in Yellowstone National Park because the environment gives them everything they need to live. All their needs are met in a balanced ecosystem. Let's find out how. All living things depend on each other and their environment to live and grow. The ways in which they interact keep the ecosystem balanced. Consider the elk you just saw along the hiking trail. Every day it depends on the living and non-living things in the park to survive. Think about all the ways the environment meets the elk's needs. It gets food from the grasses and trees that grow there. These plants give oxygen, which the elk needs to breathe. Where do you think the elk gets the water it drinks? Yellowstone's rivers and lakes, as well as streams and ponds, supply water. And do not forget the puddles that rainwater supplies. It's summer now, so the elk lives in the higher mountain areas. But in the winter, the elk and its herd will move to the lower valley. They will stay there together where there is not much snow. Twigs from fir and juniper trees will provide food. By staying together in a herd, the elk will be protected from predators such as bears and wolves. In order to grow and be healthy, all living things need food, water, and living space. They must also have shelter, light, and air. Organisms also need the right soil and the right kind of weather conditions. Living things survive in environments that meet all of their needs. To stay healthy, ecosystems must be balanced. All living things in an ecosystem are connected. If something happens to just one thing, all the parts of the ecosystem are affected. Suppose that you have balanced a pyramid of oranges on your desk. What would happen to the pile if you removed one orange from the middle? Everything would move and shift. The whole pile might tumble down. That is the way the balance of nature works too. In order for an ecosystem to be balanced, the food supply, living space, and shelter for a group of animals must be just right. Let's investigate the balance of 3 living things in Yellowstone: the weasel, the rabbit, and the clover plant. The clover, rabbit, and weasel each play a role in the balance of their ecosystem. In order to live, clover needs sunlight, water, and minerals from the soil. It also needs space. Rabbits need clover so they can live and grow. By eating clover, rabbits help keep it from taking up space that other plants need. By preying on rabbits, the weasel makes sure that the rabbit population does not get too big. That way the clover is not completely eaten up. Other plants and animals rely on the clover for oxygen and moisture. That keeps them all alive. In a balanced ecosystem, there is always change. First, organisms are born. Then they live and die. After death, they decompose. With these changes constantly taking place, an ecosystem can remain balanced. Many changes cancel each other out. For example, one rabbit may fall prey to a weasel, and elsewhere another rabbit may be born. When water dries up from a puddle, it is replaced during the next rainstorm. As you can see below, animals take oxygen out of their ecosystems when they breathe. But as new plants grow, they put more oxygen back into the ecosystem, and so it continues. Within an ecosystem, organisms compete for resources, but competition is just one way organisms can interact. When the number of resources in an ecosystem changes, populations change too. Think about the rabbit. With plenty of clover and other plants to eat, it can live and grow. More rabbits enter the ecosystem, but extra rabbits require extra plants for food. They need living space and water too. In time, the rabbit population might use up all these resources. The rabbits will die or move away from the area. When more rabbits move into a new area, they will find plenty of resources. The cycle will begin again in a new location. The rabbits will do well in their new environment because their needs are met. Their population will expand again. Eventually, this new location will not be able to meet their needs. What might happen then? In an ecosystem, organisms must compete for and share resources. Competition is the struggle between two or more species to use the same limited resources. Every organism has its own adaptations that help it compete for resources. Successful adaptations help organisms live and grow. Living space is a survival requirement. It is also a source of competition. Different plant species compete for water and sunlight. Some plants grow tall, for example, and choke out others. Birds compete for the same prime locations to build their nests. Have you ever seen a blue jay? This bird, with its blaring call, actually takes over other birds' nests. During nesting seasons, it tosses eggs from other nests and moves in. Animals behave in special ways to decrease competition or to avoid it completely. Consider the canine and feline predators of Yellowstone National Park. Both groups prey on small mammals, including squirrels, rabbits, and mice. These two groups of predators have divided their hunting turf. The canines include wolves, coyotes, and foxes. With their strong bodies and quick running abilities, they hunt in wide open areas. The feline predators, including the bobcat, cougar, and lynx, hunt in wooded areas. Since their hunting style is based on sneak attacks, they use plants to help hide them from their prey. Organisms can live together and help each other. The peony plant and some ants have a helpful relationship. The peony has a waxy outer covering on its bud. If this covering becomes too thick, it can prevent the bud from opening. Ants get energy by eating the coat off the bud. The ants need to eat the coating, and the peony cannot bloom without the ants. Not all the interactions in an ecosystem are helpful. One organism may help itself while it harms another. The organism that is helped is a parasite. The organism that is often hurt is the host. In Yellowstone, a microscopic parasite attacks the cartilage in cutthroat trout. It becomes difficult for the trout to feed and they die. As the trout decompose, they release spores of the parasite into the water. Those spores find new hosts. Okay, and that is the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.